with several of my fellow committee members. And what we're going to do tonight is share information with you about the work that the Monument Mountain Next Committee did related to the future of Monument Mountain Regional High School. We did this presentation as a report to the school committee in May 2019. And we're doing kind of a road show. This is the second time we're at a select board finance committee meeting. We spoke with folks in West Stockbridge last week. We're doing Great Barrington tonight, and we're going to be in Stockbridge tomorrow night, in case you want to see it again. I'm going to, if it's all right with everybody, ask you to hold questions until we've gone through the whole presentation. It's not that long. And then if the board allows some question and answer time,
That's fine.
I've got some compadres back here who can help me answer questions that may come up. The presentation is going to cover the process we followed, the findings from our work, and the recommendation we made to the school committee. What you see from on this slide is the Next Steps Committee was represented by, had residents from all the community, all the district towns, I'm sorry. We had folks from school committee members, from the regional high school district, elected official, at least one at that time, and parents who had children in the schools, grandparents, former educators, basically a pretty diverse group of people who came to the task with a range of opinions and experience to bring to the task, but all of us really committed to trying to come up with the best solution for what to do with Monument Mountain in the future. The board gave us two objectives to accomplish. First one was to determine whether or not to accept Massachusetts School Building Authority money if invited, and hopefully for the rest of the presentation I can get away with saying MSBA instead of Massachusetts School Building Authority. And the second thing they asked us to do is come up with a recommendation on the best option to pursue, be it repairs only, renovate and add, or build a new school. Our approach was pretty comprehensive. We did spend some time exploring what was lacking in the last two renovation proposals. Two key points that we came to after that discussion was there was insufficient community input and engagement, and there was a lack of emphasis on the educational vision. We also talked about the political challenges related to the last proposal. The two items that we thought were most pertinent were the high tax burden in Great Barrington as compared to other towns, and also a failure to effectively address community concerns about things like declining population, choice students, and pressure to merge districts. We learned about a wide range of topics. We learned about the physical and structural deficiencies of the building. We learned about enrollment projections, the whole process of school construction financing. We met with numerous educators and heard about the program changes they're making to support an evolving educational vision. We also met with representatives of two major employment sectors, agriculture and technology, and heard about opportunities that could be available for graduates with job-ready skills in these two fields. Our findings fall into three general categories: educational needs, physical needs, and community benefits. Our key takeaways from meetings with the educators were the need for flexible spaces that could adapt to today's teaching methods, and improved and modernized spaces that meet current and future technological needs. Now, to demonstrate what that means, we've added a few slides to the presentation that show the current state of Monument Mountain, and we compared those to improved and modernized spaces at two other Berkshire County schools. The first was, one was Mount Greylock, which was a renovation, and the other was Taconic, which was new construction. The automotive program is part of the Career Vocational Technical Education Curriculum, also known as CVTE, so hopefully that's the last time I have to say all of that during the presentation. CVTE is Career Vocational and Technical Education. The picture on the left is Monument. The picture on the right is Taconic. I think the things we would like you to observe is that the Taconic space has higher ceilings. It has more floor space for students to work on a variety of projects. Although you can't see it here, it also has a lot of natural light, and also important, it's accessible to all. This is not a comparison slide, but we left it in here to kind of make a point about the spaces devoted to different programs at Monument Mountain. This is the space devoted to early childhood, and doing more with this program is a challenge because of the space that they have available. The next picture, fairly obvious, these are greenhouses. The one on the left is the greenhouse at Monument. The one on the right is at Taconic. While natural light is plentiful in both those locations, an improved and modernized space at Monument Mountain, which would be accessible to all, will provide opportunities to expand the horticulture program and to integrate the program with other disciplines. These are pictures of the science labs, one at Monument, one at Mount Greylock. The Mount Greylock picture is probably the first one where flexible spaces become really obvious. These lab benches are not screwed to the floor, they're on wheels, which one of the things that allows is to configure them however you want them, and if you start a science experiment or a lab, as the teachers called it, in one class period, you don't have to tear it all down, put the equipment away, and reassemble it the next time the class meets. You just move it off to the side, so very flexible. Also, natural light coming in, lots of space to move around. These are comparative pictures of the Library Media Center. Both have books and media, but the one on the Mount Greylock one is flooded with natural light, and you can see the tables that are there. It's very flexible space and can be easily reconfigured for any number of reasons. The next item, the next area that we learned about was the physical needs of the Monument Mountain building. A few points: the building and infrastructure, which is the heating, the plumbing, and electrical, are 50+ years old. The windows are all single pane. The heating system is at best hard to regulate, and replacement parts are becoming difficult to find. There are too many points of access. There are 49 exterior doors and 99 pass-through windows at Monument. There are big areas within the building that have no natural light. Interior classrooms and the library are good examples. The building is not up to date with current building and fire codes, and additional work is needed to make the facility fully compliant with the Americans with Disabilities Act. Our group also thought it would be a good idea to emphasize the community benefits that accrue to the community benefits of Monument Mountain High School. The biggest and most obvious benefit is the fact that Monument Mountain High School graduates students who are prepared for college and career. It's also a safe and reliable emergency center. It's a large venue for public meetings, and we believe that there's the opportunity in the future for evening learning programs and events at Monument Mountain. So our recommendation to the board on the first question of repairs only. Now, our committee considered the repairs only option, and we unanimously agreed that a project that focused on infrastructure, safety, security, and accessibility needs, but did not modernize and improve the facility to support educational needs, was not a preferred option. Factors including our decision were, on the top, we're not likely a good candidate for accelerated repair. That's terminology from the MSBA. It's a program that does exist, but Monument was not considered a good candidate for that in the past, and is likely not to be in the future. Second point, the scope of basic repairs will kick in state mandated upgrades affecting fire codes and ADA improvements. So even though we were to go through the school dealing with some of the basic repairs, there comes a point, and I don't know what that point is, but there is a tipping point where you've opened up enough of the school where you have to go back and deal with all the stuff that's been grandfathered. Building codes, fire codes, full ADA access. And the last point, which was probably discussed in the last proposal. I wasn't living in Berkshire County at that time, but the idea is that if you pursue a repairs only option, the reimbursement from MSBA is either going to be pretty small, or there may not be any reimbursement at all. So whatever is spent on that program could actually total up to a tax burden for the towns that is bigger than a proposal to build or renovate. Our conclusion to the board was, or to the school committee, sorry, a major overhaul is needed, whether we renovate, add, or build new. Repairs only, from our perspective, was not an option. We thought the school committee should begin to engage professionals to further explore these two options. That's renovate, add, or build new. We also wanted to stress that we need to continue to maintain high academic standards while improving our career, vocational, and technical education in order to provide each student with opportunities for success. And lastly, we need to include community input throughout the process. So this was our message to the school committee. A few things have changed since the last vote. First here is the educational vision continues to evolve. The regional agreement for capital projects was reconfigured to create more equitable distribution among the 3 district towns. Depending on, we believe that a new project will potentially align with retiring debt from the other 2 schools. And of course, talks about consolidation have begun since we finished our work in May. So those are the changes. Since the focus of our presentation has been about Monument Mountain next steps, we thought it would be a good idea to talk about immediate next steps. This graphic is a streamlined version of a very long process set by the state. The first step is being invited to participate in the MSBA program. The district has already submitted a statement of interest to the MSBA, and a team from the MSBA recently visited the school. If you can read that box up top, it says possibly January 20. It says we will know by January 20 if we will be invited to participate. If we are, then the district will begin executing the activities to reach each of these process milestones. So that really concludes our presentation. I want to thank you for your attention. We appreciate the opportunity you've given us to share the work done by our committee, and hope this will set the stage for a very robust community outreach strategy as this process moves forward. Thank you.
So you can go right ahead and ask questions, and
I'll field questions and rely on my gang in the back to answer one that I don't think I can answer. So, any questions? Yes?
So you did not conclude whether renovation or building new was the right?
We did not. Just if you want to use numbers, there's 14 people on the committee, 8 thought new was the best solution, 6 thought renovate was the best, renovate add was the best solution. So, given the fact that we weren't looking at drawings or budgets, we thought it was appropriate to give back to the school committee
Let them figure it out.
the decision on which way is the best way to go, after they get hold of a lot more information than we had available to us.
Go ahead.
I'm just curious about the prospect of consolidation and the trend in population of student numbers, how that factors into this, because obviously there's a big difference between if it's consolidated schools that we're talking about, or just, you know, the current population now. So how does that figure in this?
Well, I'll take the risk of answering this, and if somebody wants to shoot me, they can. But the fact of the matter is, it wasn't like we didn't know consolidation was a hot topic in Berkshire County, and particularly in southern Berkshire. But the work that we were doing was focused on the Monument Mountain High School and the students who are attending and will attend. So I think the point we kept going back to as consolidation kept coming up as a topic was that the Berkshire Hills Regional School District is obligated to educate all of the children within these 3 towns. And we figured this facility is the high school part of the Berkshire Hills Regional School District. And we needed to deal with the question of what do we do now versus weighing options about what if. We know the what if is out there, but this process takes a long time. That process might take longer. So again, that's one of the things. We took the perspective that we needed to serve the children who we're obligated to serve, and if the circumstances change due to consolidation or anything else, that would have to impact what happens in this long process.
Would our application, would the MBSA, is that correct?
Mhm.
Would they factor in the fact that there is talk about consolidation? Would that have a detrimental effect on our application, thinking that it might surface, or is that?
Mr. Dillon?
So I'm Peter Dillon, I'm the superintendent. I speak to the MSBA regularly. They're aware of what's going on. They read the papers like all the rest of us do. There are 2 active conversations going on. One is with our neighbor Richmond that we have a tuition agreement with, and the other is with Southern Berkshire. The big advantage from a financial perspective in exploring consolidation is there's an incentive for an expanded regional district, and that's in the 4 to 6% range. So if you remember from the last project, the state would have covered about half of the project, and our 3 communities would have covered the other half. If we were to have an expanded region, we get an additional 4 to 6 percentage points there. And then whatever the cost of the project is, you multiply that by that. But it's relatively big money. Those conversations are ongoing. We hope to have a better sense of what's happening in Richmond in the next several months. I'm also their superintendent. And the Southern Berkshire conversations with 5 towns there, and when you put our 2 groups together, 8 towns, are slightly more complicated, but we've a meeting coming up with them, and we're hopeful something comes out of that.
Peter, as it stands now, what are our enrollment projections?
Just say your name for the.
Carol McClinchy, Beacon Hill.
So we're obligated to.
Could you repeat the question?
Okay, so as it stands now, what are our enrollment projections for the district? Is that close
So
enough?
let's look at the high school since we're talking.
For the
about
high school, yeah. We're obligated to provide enough seats for every high school age student in our 3 towns. And some of our towns some of our students choose, or their parents choose, maybe they both choose together, to go to independent schools, but we're supposed to hold a seat for them. In the last round of projections with the MSBA, the magic number was to build a school for around 530 students. Right now, and I haven't checked our current enrollment, but it's, I think, 518, something like that, 520.
But not from the 3 towns, that's including school choice.
That is including school choice, but we also have, and I don't have that whole enrollment list, but I can share it easily. We also have tuition agreements with Richmond and then Otis and Sandusville, which are Farmington River. Neither of those, or none of those communities have high schools, so they come to us through that. But it's likely that the state would recommend, and part of what, we did a pre-building committee process in this Next Steps group, but if the MSBA accepts us and we move forward, a formal building committee will be formed, and the work we did will happen again with many expert consultants at the table, and they'll do a formal enrollment projection again. But I would imagine it would end up in the low 500s.
That's not just the 3 towns, that's including other possibilities.
Correct.
But do you have a grasp on if it's just the 3 towns with the issues we have on affordable housing and families not moving in and more second homeowners? Is there anyone really staying on top of what is real for the 3 towns over the next, say, 3 to 5 years in terms of actual students who would matriculate there? Is anyone?
Yeah, no, I have a report. Every year we run a report based on the October 1st data. I just can't rattle off numbers right now, but we look at it. One of the things to consider is we do accept a number of school choice students. So even if we said, right, we're only going to serve students from the 3 towns, once we accept a school choice student, they're ours until they move out or graduate. So say the number of resident students from the 3 towns was something like 390 or 400. We couldn't go down to that number right away because there are all these kids in the pipeline. We also, for a whole host of financial and educational reasons, we might not want to go down to that bare bone number, because then you end up in the situation that some of the smaller districts and communities are facing, where they can't offer a wide range of interesting classes, and then what happens there is people flee those districts.
I understand that, but I'd like some type of answer on whether realistically our high school student population is declining in the public school over the 3 towns over the next, say, 3 to 5 years. If everyone's on top of that, you just indicated people going to independent schools as well.
Right. We have all sorts of reports on it. The Berkshire Regional Planning Group has reports on it. The NESDEC, which is a partner group, has reports on it. What we can do, because I think it's an issue for the whole community, is our next school committee meeting is a meeting confer, which is an informal working meeting, but the meeting after that, I'd be happy to put together a presentation for people who want to come, and then also to share links to all those reports with a little cover memo, so for people who can't come, they can take a look at it. We're monitoring it really closely, and not just the district, but all sorts of people all over the county.
I think I can help you with it. I've got the-
You're gonna have to
Oh,
say your name, Bill.
I'm Bill Fields. I was co-chair of the Next Steps Committee, and I'm on the school committee also.
You're gonna have to go to the microphone.
Oh,
We can't hear you, because
Okay.
they're not picking up.
No, that's fine. You were happy.
Okay.
At the last school committee meeting, the enrollment figures as of October 1st, 10/1, were given out. In our high school, we are at 516 currently, and right after this was announced, there were 10 new students that entered. So after October 1st, we added to 516, added 10 more, so we're at 526. Last year, we were at 536, the year before, 528. So what Peter has said basically is fairly accurate in regards to the number. It is, you should know that sometimes these figures really, the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission sometimes is very pessimistic about the figures. It depends. I think we're in the ballpark though. So again, I just want to say is that we're not just looking at current, we're looking at students in 5th, 6th, and 7th grade. And the thing that didn't come out earlier is that this whole talk about possible consolidation, that's going to be at least 2 to 3 years away. And That's being very optimistic. Another member of our committee who was on that talked about that the state said that's just to get things rolling, and they're not even at that point yet. So in the meantime, we have a building here with kids in the pipeline who deserve what you have seen today, which is a fair, equitable, career-oriented, academic-oriented program that only a renovated or new building can afford. So I think that the enrollment figures are not going to change that much. I don't hold you to that, but we've been fairly accurate through the last 10 years in regards to levels. I don't know if that helps.
So if anybody wants to ask questions, you're gonna have to go to the microphone. Go ahead, Sharon. You can come. Over at the podium. Right over there. You can go up front. You can take this one. No, the CTSB microphone. is all over. And then give her that microphone too.
Isn't the enrollment figure, not Sharon Gregory, Hollenbeck, thank you, Steve. Isn't the enrollment figure actually influenced by how many we choose to take? So it might not reflect the actual decline in the population, students going to private schools and so forth. So to really get an understanding of it, I think we'd have to have it broken down. How many are in-district students, how many are choice in, how many are tuition in. I think Bill's answer has more to do with being able to manage the choice in and tuition in addition to the in-district students to stabilize the population. But it doesn't quite answer your question. I'm concerned about it. Are you going to have citizens speak for this section?
This is it right now.
Oh, may I?
The email. It is about this subject.
It's on the subject, thank you.
It's on this subject?
This the school subject.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine. You can go ahead, Sharon.
Thank you. I'm really heartened with this report. It's congratulations to the committee who worked through really some difficult issues. I've been going to all the consolidation meetings, 8 towns and so forth, and I'm encouraged by that too. As you know, I've been a proponent there because of the concerns you mentioned. So my question is, and perhaps this is a suggestion, how will the potential consolidation of the school district affect plans for Monument? So while the school consolidation, should it occur, might take 3 years or so, the building or the renovation of the school will also take a long time. So in order to prepare for the possibilities, it seems like maybe the next step committee, if you want, or the school committee could take into consideration a couple of early factors that I think are really critical. First, the cost of the renovation or new construction could be reduced by any duplicate facilities we might have. For example, commercial kitchen or some of the agricultural programs. And then the second major thing is the planned student capacity of the high school should be addressed pretty soon. These decisions will impact the functional requirements as you develop a guide for architectural planning. And it usually is done easily 3 years before the construction is financed and completed. So I have some analysis to share.
You have about a minute and a half left.
Okay, just a summary. Monument has 531 students from Rich Mahoney's handout of the 3 towns, of which 347 are resident students belonging to the 3-town district of Great Barrington, Stockbridge, and West Stockbridge. Mount Everett has 165 resident students, which totals 512 students. But Monument choices in 29 students to Mount Everett, and Mount Everett choices 56 students to Monument. So taking all the resident students together, we'd have 597 high school students. The critical question is, we have also 73 tuition-in students from the towns of Richmond, Otis, Sandusfield, and they don't have high schools. So their per student costs, revenues to us is much less than the actual cost of education. So I guess the question is, will somebody be looking at this so that we don't plan a school larger than we can actually afford? And will all those towns be approached so that there's an equitable coverage of operating costs? And I won't even say anything about capital costs. But those are the questions I have. Thank you.
Just to respond to those things, and the chart that's there sort of outlines the MSBA process. All your questions are really good ones, and they're really valid ones. If the MSBA accepts us and we move forward, we'll spend the next year or year and a half answering all those questions in super fine detail with lots of people to help us, and there'll be at least 2 or 3 separate enrollment studies that happen. Once the proper number is determined through those 2 or 3 studies, then architects will start with their schematic design and look at building us an appropriate, or designing an appropriate structure to meet those needs. All throughout that, there'll be complex financial analysis, enrollment analysis, lots of community engagement, all sorts of things. And then it would go back at some point to the 3 towns to vote on it. But you're back of the envelope math around numbers of high school kids. The obvious thing to do would be if the 2 South County districts came together, and you knew that was happening in 3 years or 4 years, a thoughtful school committee and administration would start reducing school choice so that when and if they came together, there was the appropriate amount of space to accommodate everyone.